this is Lindy from Love Create Celebrate. Welcome back to our channel where we share all of our DIY and home renovation videos. Today we are chatting about all things wallpaper, where to start and stop, how to go around corners or around a whole room, how to install the wallpaper. We're chatting about all of it. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified of more great DIY and home renovation videos. Wallpaper has been coming back full force in popularity. There are so many amazing options out there, so many new wallpaper companies popping up everywhere, and it's a great way to change the feel of a space in just a couple of hours. We've used wallpaper in a couple spots in our home already, and we definitely plan to use it some more, so it's about time that we're sharing a tutorial with all of you. Today we are specifically talking about paste the wall wallpaper, which is our favorite wallpaper to work with. So if that's what you're working with, stay tuned and we'll show you how to do it all. These are the bathrooms that we recently renovated in a local hair salon. If you missed the video, I will link it up top so you can check out the entire renovation. While we were doing it, we got a ton of questions about how to wallpaper and specifically how to go around corners and doors and wrap edges. So that's what we wanted to share today. To start, this is everything that we typically use when we're wallpapering a room. To start, we have our paste the wall wallpaper. Then we have our wallpaper adhesive, our squeegee or smoother, a straight edge, a paintbrush, and a typical wall paint roller. And I'll link all of these in the description below so you can check them out yourself. A lot of people also like using these foam squeegees to push air bubbles out while they're putting on wallpaper. We don't typically use this one, but it can be a great tool. The first thing you have to decide is where to put your first sheet of wallpaper. We rarely start our wallpaper in the corner because they're very rarely true or level. Instead, we like to start our pieces in a spot that's going to be trickier. For example, putting wallpaper around a door frame on the sides and the top is much trickier than starting your sheet of wallpaper from the edge of the door frame. So we decided to start at the edge of the door frame and move out just to make our lives easier going forward. And when you're wrapping a room, there's always going to be one awkward ending spot where the patterns don't perfectly line up. So usually we try to think about where we're going to end at the beginning too. And in this case, we want to hide that pattern that doesn't line up somewhere behind the door. In this case, the door frame was actually perfectly square and level, but if you don't have a square door frame, you do need to use a plumb bob or a laser level to make sure that your first sheet is perfectly level when it goes up on the wall. When you're ready to put the wallpaper up, we start by using a regular paintbrush to apply wallpaper adhesive to the wall where the wallpaper will go. You don't have to put any adhesive on the wallpaper itself, and usually we're a little bit generous with how much we put on, although not always this generous. But it's easy to squeegee out the extra, and it's better to have too much than too little. And then we always go over all of that paste with a paint roller to smooth out any lumps. And now you're ready to put that first piece of wallpaper up on the wall. Decide where you want your pattern to sit. So in our case, we were just deciding which part of the pattern we wanted to sit right above our board and batten. And then make sure that your wallpaper is level. And in our case, we wanted it to be really tight against the door frame. And now you can use that squeegee tool to squeegee and flatten out the wallpaper. You want to just gently hold the wallpaper in place while you do this, and the squeegee does two things. One helps to adhere the wallpaper and make sure that there is adhesive and glue behind all parts of the paper, and two, it helps to push out any of the excess paste because like we said, we always put a little bit extra. We'd rather squeeze some out and have too much than not have enough. Use that squeegee to push tight into all of the edges, and when you're ready, you can use a straight edge and an X-Acto knife to carefully cut off any excess paper on the top or bottom of your wallpaper piece. You want to make sure that you have a nice new sharp blade when cutting this so that you get nice crisp lines. If you have a dull blade, you might just end up ripping the wallpaper and ruining your piece. At the end, we always do a quick swipe with a damp rag to remove any paste that might be on the edges of our wallpaper. Okay, so now we can finally get into doing these corner wallpaper pieces. In my opinion, wallpapering around corners is the hardest part of doing wallpaper, so we're going to break it down and make it as easy as possible. And the goal here, of course, is to have the wallpaper pattern look seamless and continuous. Start by measuring the space between your wallpaper and your corner. We already checked our pattern and cut our wallpaper to approximately the right height, leaving a couple of extra inches on the top and bottom. Then we marked the distance we had just measured and cut a tiny little cut at the top and bottom of our wallpaper. We call this our relief cut because it allows us to bend the wallpaper when we're pushing it into the corner. Wallpaper naturally wants to roll back up into its roll, and if you don't have that relief cut, it's really hard to get a nice bend towards the corner of your wall. When we're ready to put the wallpaper up, we do the same thing as before, first brushing on the adhesive and then rolling over it with our roller. Now you can start putting that corner piece in place. We're first going to pay close attention to the side that we're already working on. We're going to get that side smooth and leveled down, and then we're going to move to the other side. You can see here exactly how that little tiny cut allows the wallpaper to bend towards the corner. We're going to start by lining up the seams on our two pieces of wallpaper and then slowly move in towards the corner. You can use your hand to gently push the wallpaper towards the seam, and when the two pieces are lined up correctly, the seam should completely disappear. We already used our level to check this corner, and it is actually perfectly square, which is very rare when you're putting up wallpaper. So we'll show you how to do this corner first when you have a nice square corner, and then we'll show you what we do when your corner is not square as well. With some of the old paste the paper wallpapers, you used to have to cut the wallpaper all the way along the corner, leaving just a small amount on this second wall that you could overlap with. In this case, we're using paste the wall wallpaper, so it doesn't need to soak up moisture like the old paper does. It doesn't expand and then shrink over time, so you don't have to cut the entire piece of wallpaper like we used to. If you're wrapping wallpaper along a whole wall, you may still want to cut your wallpaper because it'll make it a little bit easier to work with. But if you're doing something like this where you're just wallpapering a small section above board and batten, you can easily just squeegee into the corners as long as you have enough adhesive there, and you'll still get a really nice finish. So once the first side of your wallpaper piece is up, you can use your X-Acto knife to cut the excess off the top and the bottom, and then work on adhering the second half of that corner piece. With your squeegee, you always want to start from the center and work outwards, upwards, and downwards to make sure that you're getting out all of the air bubbles and all of the excess adhesive. And then you always want to double check that the outside of your pattern is square and level, because if not, now is definitely the time to go back and adjust those quarter pieces. When we're cutting in the corners of our wallpaper, we usually like to use a pair of scissors to cut as close as possible to the actual corner. And then we use our straight edge and an X-Acto knife to cut off any excess after that. When that corner was done, we continued wallpapering around the rest of the room, and it turns out every corner in this room is perfectly square. So well done, contractor. That usually never happens. Since we don't have a corner that isn't square to show you, we're just going to pretend in our next corner and show you what we would do if it wasn't square. So if your wall wasn't square, what would happen is your first piece would still be lined up and level because it would be lined up with the sheet beside it. But when you go over the corner, the next piece would have an angle to it on the wall. So what you can do is put a full piece on and cut your wallpaper just slightly after the corner, and then start a new full piece in the corner on the other side. The problem with doing that is that the patterns do not line up at all, and it's really hard to make it look lined up. So this is what we do to try and keep the pattern as cohesive as possible. Most of the corners we've done have only been off level by 1 millimeter or 2. So what we've done is leveled the paper and found the point where the corner will be, and used our scissors to cut a straight line down the line of the corner. This is similar to what we did with our relief cut, except we cut further, and we only make that large cut from the side of the wallpaper that was sticking out further on the other wall. And then all you're trying to do is level that outside line by pushing that little bit of wallpaper and allowing it to overlap the other side. When we do it this way, usually the overlap is so small because that's all you need to level it out, and the pattern is in exactly the right spot, so you can't even tell there's any change in the pattern. Our final challenge after all of the corners were done was figuring out where we wanted our wrap to end. Like I said earlier, you usually want the part where the seams don't line up to be a little bit hidden. So in a corner behind a door or beside a door frame is a good place to do that. What we ended up doing here was lining it up with the edge of the piece beside the door and then filling it in towards the corner so that the part where our pattern didn't line up perfectly was in the corner of the room. And that is how you bring wallpaper around a whole room and wrap around corners. I hope you guys found that video helpful. If you did, please hit that thumbs up and let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know if you have any questions or anything we didn't cover in the video. We'd love to be able to answer those for you. And don't forget to hit that bell so you can be notified of more great DIY and home renovation videos. Thanks for watching.